Good morning, children. In previous classes, we were seeing about the autotrophic mode of nutrition, isn't it? The nutrition in plants where only the green plants can prepare their own food. The process of preparation of food by the green plants is called as photosynthesis. Is it clear? So now we are going to read about the heterotrophic mode of nutrition. What are autotrophs? You know now from previous classes you understood that only green plants can prepare their own food. Green plants can prepare their own food. Then what about the other plants? There are also non-flowering plants also, and also certain plants which depend on other plants for their food. What are they called? So such plants which depend on other plants for their food are called as heterotrophs. So green plants can prepare their own food. So they are called as autotrophs. They are called as autotrophs. The mode of nutrition is called as autotrophic mode of nutrition. Mode of nutrition is autotrophic mode of nutrition. So here we have learnt about the nutrition in plants, isn't it? In nutrition in plants, we have learnt about the green plants that they prepare their food by themselves. Hence the mode of nutrition is autotrophic mode of nutrition. It is called as autotrophic mode of nutrition. So what about the other plants which depend on other plants for their food? So the plants which depend on other plants for their food are heterotrophs. Plants which depend on other plants for their food are called heterotrophs. Other plants or insects or animals, anything. So other organisms we can say, they are called as heterotrophs. Did you understand up to here, children? So first is green plants prepare their own food. Hence the mode of nutrition is called as autotrophic mode of nutrition. Plants which depend on other plants for their food or other organisms like insects or animals, they are heterotrophs and their mode of nutrition is heterotrophic mode of nutrition. So mode of nutrition means intake of food. How do they take their food? That is the process of intake of their food is a heterotrophic mode of nutrition. So mode of nutrition here for these plants, for these heterotrophic plants are heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Did you understand, children? So that's why green plants, since they prepare their own food, they are called as producers. And here these plants, they do not prepare their own food. They either depend on the plants or other insects or animals for their food. So they are called as heterotrophs and their mode of nutrition is called as heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Now you know about the autotrophic mode of nutrition as their examples being green plants. Now we'll see the different examples for following the heterotrophic mode of nutrition. What are they? So in heterotrophic mode of nutrition, they are again classified into 4 types. They are parasites. See, children, heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Here the organisms are divided into these 4 types, mainly parasites. They follow parasitic mode of nutrition. Saprophytes. They follow saprophytic mode of nutrition. And the third one is insectivorous plants which depend on insects. Insectivorous plants. They depend on insects for their food. And the fourth one mainly being symbionts. Symbiotic mode of nutrition. They follow symbiotic mode of nutrition. Here, the heterotrophic mode of nutrition is performed by parasites, saprophytes, insectivorous plants and symbionts. What are these plants? Now we'll know about each one of them in detail. So what are parasites? Example for parasites are Cuscuta. Is it clear, children? Cuscuta. So what are these parasites? Parasites depend on host plant for their food. What do they depend on? They depend on host plant. That is green plants which can prepare their own food. Host plant for their food. When coming to the saprophytic mode of nutrition, examples, you know it, in your surroundings you might have seen the mushrooms around or around which belong to fungi group. They are non-flowering plants and belongs to cryptogams. Is it clear, children? So they cannot prepare their own food since they do not have leaves nor chlorophyll. As in the case of the parasites also, they do not have the leaves and chlorophyll, because as they do not have green leaves, they do not contain chlorophyll, which is a part of preparation of the food, that is photosynthesis. So mushrooms. So this is the example for saprophyte. What do they depend upon for their food? So how do they take in their food? They depend on dead and decayed organic matter. Decayed organic matter for their food. Next, coming to the insectivorous plants. Insectivorous plants depend on insects for their food. These examples mainly being Drosirus, Venus flytrap, Nepenthes, and what more being sundew. So like this, there are so many insectivorous plants. Next coming, they depend on insects for their food. They depend on, how do they depend and why do they depend? I'll explain you again. They depend on insects. Next, symbionts. Examples mainly being lichens. They are the colonies of algae and fungi. What are they? In detail, we know about each one of them now. Okay, children? Note it down first. Okay, children. Now we'll see about the parasitic plants. What are parasitic plants? Parasitic plants are the plants which depend on host plant for their food. See the picture, children, here. So if you think this is a green plant, that is a host plant with the leaves and all, because it prepares its own food. Here this thin thread-like structure which is twining over this green plant, this is parasitic plant. Is it clear, children? So this is a parasitic plant. It has the roots which penetrates into the deeper layers of the tissues of the host plant. These are the roots which are called as haustoria. These haustoria are the roots of parasitic plant. They are roots of parasitic plant. Okay, children? So these roots penetrate into the deeper layers of the tissues of host plant and take the food from the host plant. Is it clear, children? This is the host plant. This stem of the host plant. It's twining over the stem of the host plant. This is the parasitic plant. They contain, if you see it, they are the yellow colored thread-like structures. Yellow colored thread-like structures. They have the roots called as haustoria. They penetrate into the deeper layers of the tissues of the host plant and take the food from the host plant. In such a manner, they get the food from the host plant. So the examples for the parasitic plants are, here you can see, this is Cuscuta. Its common name is dodder. And they normally penetrate over the host plants like cloves, potato, chrysanthemum and dahlia and ivy gourds, as you know that it is a vegetable. So you can see here, this is a cloves is a condiment, potatoes, you know, chrysanthemum flower, chamanti we say, and this is also flower dahlia, and the other one is ivy gourds. So they penetrate into these plants and they take the food from these plants normally, especially about the cuscuta. Next, coming to the Orabancae, its common name is broom ribs. So this normally they penetrate in over the host plants like peas, beans, lentils, all the leguminaceous plants, tomatoes, potatoes, capsicum and lettuce. So note it down, children. Next, coming to the other example about the viscum. It's a mistletoe. Its common name is mistletoe. Its Borabancae common name is broom ribs. Cuscuta its daughter. And here viscum it is mistletoe. It penetrates over the apple trees or mostly about the bark of the tall trees and all. So this mainly being the apple trees, oak plantations and other fruit bearing plants. So you can note it down about these plants, children. Okay, carry on. Note down these points. Next, children, saprophytic plants. Saprophytic plants, as you know, that they depend on dead and decayed organic matter for their food. They are generally white in color. You know it. The examples are mushrooms, isn't it? So there are so many types of saprophytic plants, as you know. See this picture, children. So this is a fungal varieties mushrooms. You can see here in the picture. Agaricus, a fungus. Is it clear, children? So, and here also. These are fungal varieties. Several varieties again I will show you. See, these are all are the varieties of fungus, mushrooms. You might have seen, and some mushrooms are useful in food to us and also some are harmful also. They cause death. Okay, they are harmful saprophytes, that is the mushrooms. And here you see here, normally the mushrooms are white in color. They take the food from the host, that is the dead and decayed organic matter, that is rotten food material or any bark if the plant is dead. So you can see the mushrooms growing over the rotten barks, or also you can see the over the food material that is being thrown away, over the garbage and all. You can find this type of white colored umbrella like structures you may be seeing. So they are called as the mushrooms. Okay, children. So there are three types. Again, you can see the molds that spread over, that develop over the rotten bread or the vegetable matter, that is rhizopus. And the second example is mucor, that is a pin mold. It is also called. It is also a mold, black colored structures that are formed over the rotten organic matter. And the yeast and the agaricus normally found in the mushrooms. Is it clear, children? So this is fungal. They belong to group fungus, that is fungal group. They are saprophytes. They depend on dead and decayed organic matter, and they grow on the rotten materials and take the food, that is their nutrition. They obtain their nutrition through their tiny hairs. The hair-like structures they take, from their hair-like structures they take the food from the host plant. Is it clear? That is host mainly being the plant or the organic matter, any plant that is dead. Is it clear, children? So that is about the saprophytes. Next we move to the insectivorous plants. Note down. Now, children, here about the insectivorous plants. The insectivorous plants, they are in lack of nitrogen. So they get their nitrogen requirements from the plant, that is insects. So what do they lack? They lack in nitrogen. So they grow in the areas where there is deficiency of nitrogen. So they lack nitrogen, so they get their nitrogen requirements from the insects. Nitrogen requirements. From where do they get the nitrogen requirements? From insects. Okay, children. So the examples of the insectivorous plants are pitcher plant, sundew, bladderwort, and the Venus flytrap. These all the They are the insectivorous plants. Though they are green plants, so normally they are autotrophic in nature and they can prepare their own food. Though they can prepare their own food, they lack nitrogen. Hence, in order to get the nitrogen requirements, they trap the insects. So the leaves are modified in such a manner to trap the insects. They trap the insect and get their nitrogen through the insects. Is it clear, children? So this is about the insectivorous plants. I'll show you. This is a Venus flytrap. See, children, this one. So this is the Venus flytrap. So here the insect, when it enters this part, it immediately closes it. So it traps it through this. This is the plant. So in this is a modified, the leaves are such a manner, it's modified into spiny structures so that it attracts the insects and it takes the insects inside. Okay, the pitcher plant, if you see, it has the pitcher through which it can attract the insects and take the insect into it. And sundew, the leaves are containing the in such a manner that they glow like a dews in the sun. Do you understand? So that's why the name is of sundews, and the leaves contain sticky substance which attracts the insects towards it and it digests it through its digestive enzymes inside. So this is about the pitcher plant, sundew, and the blodderwort. It is the suction trap in action. So it sucks the insects in such a manner, the leaves are in such a manner that when the leaf comes near it, when an insect comes near the leaves, it sucks the insects in such a manner with that action of the suction action, it takes up the insects towards it. Is it clear, children? So that is about the insectivorous plants. To know about the insectivorous plants again in detail, so we can see that the insectivorous plants are, it's very important question, children, they are green plants. Though the green plants means they can prepare their own food, isn't it? Yes, they can prepare their food. But even though they depend on other plants, they can prepare their own food. But even though they depend on other plants. Why they depend on other plants? For nitrogen requirements. They depend on other plants for nitrogen. Since they grow in the nitrogen deficiency areas, they take the nitrogen requirements from insects. Get nitrogen, other insects. They depend on insects for nitrogen. So they get their nitrogen requirements from insects. Is it clear, children? Though they are green plants, they can prepare their food, but they lack nitrogen. So they depend on insects for nitrogen and get their nitrogen requirements from insects. So this is about the insectivorous plants, and examples I told you: Venus flytrap. Venus flytrap, mainly you can write down pitcher plant. In your textbook back side also you can see the picture of the pitcher plant, children. See here, your textbook. In your textbook you can see this pitcher plant. So this is the pitcher plant. Okay, children? Yes. Next, coming to the symbionts. Not done. Now coming to the fourth type of the plants, about the symbiotic plants. That is the symbiotic relationship, mutual association between the two plants for food and shelter, it takes place. That is the symbiotic relationship between the plants. Here the one plant is a green plant that prepare its own food, and the other which depends on this green plant, it helps to provide the shelter and other nutrients to the green plants. In fact, both are mutually helping each other for food and shelter. We can see here they grow on the other plants and share their food. See here. Here the no plant is being harmed in this relationship or in this symbiotic relationship. So in this association of the two plants, one is autotroph, that is one can prepare its own food and the other cannot prepare its food. Here the example, best example forming the lichen. In your textbook also it is given, you can see the picture easily, ma. This is a lichen. Here the green colored structures mainly are the algal structures and the white colored structures are the fungal structure. Here the algae and fungi, the both are forms the colonies, and the close physical contact between the algae and fungal groups will help them to provide the algae provides the food to the fungi, and the fungi provides the shelter and the nutrients to the algae, and for further development of the algae it helps. In fact, both are mutually helping one another for food and shelter, so they form the symbiotic relationship. So this is lichen. Lichen contains the algal and fungal colonies which have the close physical contact between them. Is it clear, children? So the example is lichen for symbiotic relationship or the symbiotic plants. You can say it is lichen. There is a mutual relationship between algae and fungi for food and shelter. In simpler words, we can say like that. Next example is mycorrhiza. It's also called as fungal root. In Greek, myco means fungus, rhiza means root. So here the root is providing the food to the fungal, and the fungus is providing the nutrients to the root. In fact, both are helping or mutually helping one another. Is it clear? So this mutual understanding or the helping nature between the two plants for food and shelter is called as symbiotic relationship. Most of the leguminaceae plants also follow the symbiotic relationship, like groundnuts. They contain the roots of the groundnuts, or have some leguminaceae plants have this nitrogen fixing bacteria in them. So this bacteria take the shelter from the roots of the leguminaceae plants, like beans or the groundnuts also. They contain, the roots contain the root nodules, they contain the bacteria. So if this is a root, this is another example. Leguminaceae plants, they also form these are the bacteria, nitrogen fixing bacteria they are called as. Is it clear? Nitrogen fixing bacteria. So they take the these plants lack nitrogen, so then they take the nitrogen from the bacteria, these roots, and this bacteria take the shelter from the plant, green plant. So we can say that leguminaceae plants also form the symbiotic naceae, like bean plant, you can say. They form the symbiotic relationship between the nitrogen fixing bacteria. Is it clear, children? So this is about the symbiotic relationship between the plants. Okay, children, we have completed the nutrition in plants, autotrophic mode of nutrition that is performed by green plants, and heterotrophic mode of nutrition, or again how they are divided into 4 types: parasites, saprophytes, symbionts, insectivorous plants. So in the next class, I'll deal with the question answers that arise in this lesson. Okay, children, thank you very much. Read the lesson.